Hi, I'm Andy Jenkinson, caravan industry expert. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to the caravan channel, to a new video. Now this is going to be a different video from what I normally do. I'm actually going to look at some classic caravans. Well, you know, that's nothing unusual, that's one of my specialities. And but this one is a trip, well, a big road trip from a hometown just outside of Blackpool down to Oxfordshire. And it's a lady who has been restoring caravans and to hire out to film sets, that sort of thing. And I've given a lot of help over the last couple of years on identifying some of the caravans, giving them weights, measures, that sort of thing. And she said, will you come down and have a look? And I said, yeah, I'd love to come down to have a look, especially down to Oxfordshire. It's a lovely area, it's a lovely place. I've not been down for some years. I've come down a lot here in my caravan. Stop over on Broadway, the caravan club site there. So I've not been down here for a little bit, and yeah, so this is it. It's a lovely sort of Saturday afternoon, and travelling down now, I think the M40, so I'm not too far from my destination, and I think it's a place called Wainham, if I remember right. I can't remember just off the top of my head. But anyway, I'm quite excited because she's got a few American trailers. Now, I don't know much about American trailers at all. I've got a few American old brochures, etc. at home. I know a little bit, but nothing much at all. And so I'm really excited to come and have a look at these and learn a bit about them and video them. Now, this video will be, I'm thinking I'm going to do it in 2 parts. May even end up as 3, I'm not sure. But we'll see how it goes. And yeah, so it's... well, it's going to have gone past lunchtime. I'm going to have time now to have a quick butty and something to eat. Nice little bit of road here, a little single track road, and I think I've reached my destination. It's a lovely spot. There's the Chilterns close by. I've loved this area. It's I say, it's a long time since I've been round here, and yes, I think I've found my destination. Brilliant. After several hours on the M6 and 42 and 40, I'm finally where I need to be. Now I think someone is going to come and open the gates for me. Anyway, I shall catch up to you shortly. Well, last night or late afternoon we arrived here at Wainhill, and the idea is to come and video some classic vintage Tourers. And some of these Tourers are from the States, but we're going to do a separate video for those because this video is going to be done in like sort of 2 episodes. Anyway, Wainhill's in Oxfordshire. I'm right on the edge of the Chiltern. It's a beautiful morning and it's just a beautiful area. But here, Katrina, who runs a little business that's just started up, has bought these classic caravans in for film companies and film photo shoot people to come and use as props. And we've got some American ones, which we're going to cover in another episode, of course, and also we've got some UK and some Belgian caravans as well to look at. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to look at this Eccles first here. There's another Eccles to look at, which we're going to do after. And also some of these caravans are in various states of disrepair because she's literally brought them in to start restoring them. But I'm really excited because, as I say, this is an ideal setting. And hey, let's just get in this van behind me first. It's an Eccles, it's from 1955, and it's the Coronet, and I can't wait to get in and have a proper good look around. Right, 1955. Eccles, of course, was a big name. They'd started the caravan industry off. The Rileys, father and son, 1919, they were the first commercial touring caravan producers and became the biggest manufacturers, not just in the UK or Europe, but actually in the world. But anyway, let's fast forward through the war years, up to the 50s, when caravanning was taking off again after the war, and all the rationing and all that sort of business has been put to one side. And Eccles, of course, being pioneers of the caravan, they were there and they were producing tourers such as this, the Coronet from 1955. Now, they were fairly basic caravans for the time, because Eccles had moved away from doing sort of more luxury type of tourers to doing more sort of bread and butter type of caravans. So, consequently, made them more affordable. This has all been repainted. Katrina told me all about the restoration on it. Now inside she's had to do some complete rebuild on it, and it's been done in some sort of pastel colours. Now if you're a purist you might sort of pull a face at that. I like things pure, but do you know what? It saved this van, that's the main thing. But on all her other stuff, she tries to keep it as original as possible. Anyway, I'm going to take you around to the back end of this Tourer because it's quite a simple design. Very few curves. It's thick gauge aluminium, and this would have been able to tow this behind a 1000cc, 1200cc car, and it would sleep 4. And these were very popular caravans. Anyway, I'll show you just around the back end. Right, at the rear end here, we've got 3 windows. Now, to me, it always feels like this should be the front and vice versa. The Eccles badge there is proudly displayed, and it was a distinctive shape at the time. And these 3 windows at the back would open up. This is where the lounge area is. And to be quite honest, these Tourers were pretty strong and well-made Tourers. A lot of people were still using these into the 70s. And many rested up in a garden somewhere and were used as a storage or a shed or whatever, or maybe a kids' play area. And there was plenty of them made. We're not talking thousands, but we're talking probably maybe top hundreds. But anyway, I'm going to take you inside because, as I say, although it is pretty basic, at the time it was quite a decent medium priced Tourer. Anyway, let's have a quick look inside. Right, I'm inside the Eccles here, and it was a layout which was very popular by lots of caravan manufacturers. It slept up to 4, as I said previously, and this area, the lounge area, would have made up into a double bed, and at the back was a bunk with a bunk above that, usually a hammock bunk. But anyway, what have we got? Well, this is caravanning 1950s style. The cup and saucer. I can remember in the late 60s with my parents, mother would literally put everything out as though we were having a high tea. We wouldn't think we're in the caravan, we would think we're at home, and everything was all neat and nice, and a nice fresh tablecloth, and we'd all sit all down and have our meal at the same time, and it was very civilised. And this just takes me back to that period, to be quite honest, because most caravanners at that time would have done their caravanning like this. It was far more formal. Vision, well, in those days, as I say, you got 3 windows at the back here. You could open these up for individual ventilation through, and you could see out here and see what your fellow caravan buddies were doing on site. Of course, today this feels quite small and very basic, but back then, as I said before, these were a medium priced Tourer. Very practical, very simple in design. Let's have a look at the kitchen area. I'm not going to start messing around because a lot of things have been put on here and I don't want to disturb them. But from this seating area here, let's go and have a look at the kitchen and the wardrobe and the lockers above. Oh, and bang my arm as well. Your caravaner in the 50s would have made very simple meals. There would have been a 2-burner stove with a little grill. On this one, when it came, when Katrina got it, it did have an oven with it as well. And that would have been a very sort of expensive option to have. Plus, of course, it would add to the weight. But anyway, the kitchen would have a plastic sink. There was your lockers here. As you can tell, by modern standards, storage space was virtually really non-existent, apart from the odd shelf. But then again, people didn't take stuff away with them the same. We got the roof vent up here, which obviously has been replaced with a modern one because the original one was broken, and one over here, so it's quite a bit of light coming through. And of course, in those days, the windows were just normal glass and clear, so lots of light would flood in. Now, as I say, it's all been painted up, and as I say, this is normally not the sort of style that you would do a classic caravan, but again, on this occasion, this all had to be rebuilt. And it was just something for the people that come to the bed and breakfast here to come and actually come in here and sort of sit and have a cup of tea and maybe reminisce when they were children and went caravanning. I don't know. But lighting wise, well, there was 2 gas lights. There's one at the top end here and one on the side of the wardrobe. So at night time, the hiss of that gas would have been heard, and the smell actually, because it would smell. And one thing you had to remember was you always had to have the windows ajar and get some ventilation in, especially if you had a fire in, because normally a gas fire was a flame fire and it would really be very dangerous if you sealed everything up. But anyway, moving on from there, as I say, the storage in the kitchen, that was the oven area. And what Katrina actually told me was all these catches were actually saved off the original dilapidated furniture. So she put them all back on, which I think was a nice idea. The wardrobe, well, these went straight down to the floor. And now modern caravans have started doing that, but they used to, at one time, so they used to finish here, and then they'd have a space for a space heater. But because of the heating now arrangement's changed, where the heater is in one of the lockers, it means now there's more space for the wardrobe. So consequently, they've put a full door on there. And of course, you've got your mirror here. And of course, we said before, we've got a roof vent over here too. Again, you'd have enough storage in here for a family of 4. Coats, clothes, everything like that. Shoes would be shoved at the bottom. And generally, you would feel you were having a great time because you had plenty of room. Don't forget, these tours are only around about 6'6" wide in those days. But this just doesn't feel narrow at all. It feels a spacious caravan. And Eccles would go on into the late 50s and be taken over by Sprite in 1960, of course, and then another chapter in Eccles began. Unfortunately, the Eccles name has now been discontinued by the Swift Group, which is very unfortunate after celebrating 100 years. But anyway, that's their decision. I would have kept it, but there you go. Anyway, I hope you like this little tour of Eccles. I think it's a great van. But let's go and have a look what else Katrina's got, because she's got quite a few tours to have a look at. Right, now I said before when I was in the Eccles Coronet that about the Bluebird Euro camper, and I thought we'd come across here to do this next, to be honest with you. Now, Katrina bought this only a few weeks ago, and it is very much a work in progress. You'll see that in 1 or 2 of the vans. But she got on to me and asked me about the Tourer, what it was, what its year was, and I got it down to a 1967 Bluebird Euro camper. Now, these were made at Poole in Dorset, and the Euro camper was launched to be towed by the mini car and other such small cars, and this was a 3/4 berth caravan. Now, it was very, very simple in its day, and of course it was very, very light. I think it weighed roughly at the top of my head around about 900 weight in old money. Things that cut costs down was things like the one-piece door and just very little in the way of any storage. But this got a lot of people onto the
road of caravanning because they were tenters probably, and they wanted something a bit more solid. They wanted something cheap. They wanted something they could store in the front garden, and these were ideal. And so the Euro camper became a big selling hit from around 1967 until 74, where they actually finished production. Now these were popular, and there was plenty around. I'm going to take you around the Tourer and just point out any bits and pieces. But to say, you must remember this is very much a work in progress. Wow, this takes me out. I've not been inside a Euro camper for many years. Up until the very early 90s, you could still find these in a dealer's compound, on a dealer's forecourt, shoved in the bargain basement section. Right, well, Katrina said, oops, got to be careful what I'm doing here. I'll break even more things, but anyway, it is very much a work in progress, obviously. It's only been here a few weeks, and I'll just give you a very quick run through. Right, now you'll see that it's the same layout as the Eccles Coronet that we looked at before. So dinette at the end and bunk and seat at the front here. Now this has been made into 2 seats because it wasn't unusual for people who bought a caravan such as this after some years down the line they'd alter it. I've seen even a 2-berth version of this, which officially they never made, of course, but somebody did a DIY. Now in this there's a Flavel oven. This looks to me something probably from the 70s. Now this would originally come in with a very, very basic 2-burner hob and a grill. Has a water pump been added? Well, there'd been no water pumped to it at all. You've had to use a container to fill your kettle up, and of course your gas cylinders were stuck at the front there, exposed to all the elements, of course, like most caravans were. But this was very basic caravanning. As I say, this weighed about 900 weight in old money. And you got, at the back end here, your little dinette, and 4 of you could sit round here, so 2 adults and 2 children. You got storage underneath, of course, on both sides, plenty of storage underneath there, to be quite honest, because there's nothing apart from a wheel arch here to interfere. So you put all your bedding under there. But this would then make up into double bed using the table, which would drop down and fill this gap. Now, the wardrobe, again, by today's standard, looks pretty small. But back then, don't forget, as I said, the people didn't take as much with them. So consequently, for 2 young children, 2 adults, that wardrobe would have been more than big enough for their needs most of the time. Now, tow cars, Austin 1100, Mini, that type of thing was the car that would have towed on these caravans. And it brought people into caravanning who probably maybe had a tent, and this gave them the first taste of it. So these caravans sold very well, and this sold well abroad as well. A lot of these were exported. And Bluebird are a massive company, especially with the Side Group, and they produced lots of different things like motorhomes. The Bluebird Highwayman was one of their popular ones, and also they produced park homes and static caravans. But they produced the Europa range, which this was the Euro camper. So this was a very little basic van to get people on and off, onto caravan. So as I say, work in progress. Not a lot else I can show you in it, to be quite honest, but if you will notice, is a lot of the wood back in that day was proper veneer wood. Photo finished wood didn't come until the very early 70s, when the cost of wood were going up and photo veneer was a far cheaper thing to do. And so that's where you saw the transition made, unless it was a luxury clubman van, which they still stuck to the proper veneer. So I'm going to go off to the next caravan on this video, and I'm going to go and have a look at the Eccles Bounty from 1958. And that was like a 12'6" 4-berth caravan with a toilet compartment, and again, that's very original. And Katrina's got it right. She's been doing some bits of job work on it, and it looks a smart Tourer. Anyway, I'll see you over in 1958. Well, here I am with the Eccles Bounty. Now, we've moved to 1958 from the Euro camper in 1967. We've gone back a few years. And the Bounty was Eccles' one of their best sellers. It was 12'6" long in old money. And it came with a toilet compartment. So that was a big bonus for a lot of caravanners. Because if you'd had the Coronet, this would probably be your next step up when you changed again to something like the Bounty. A bit more room, a little bit better spec, insulated, etc. So you were moving up in the caravan world. But simple, again, design. And if you remember, that on the Coronet was like at the back end and just one little small piece front window. On this there was 3 windows, and notice as well that they haven't got a frosted window at the front, because they just didn't do that on toilet windows so much in those days. But anyway, I'd like to see the original road lights. They're quite good, and all the drawbar and chassis is all pretty original. And again, it's all been painted up and make it look something like it was back in the day. So I'm going to take you now round the back end here, and we'll have a little chat of that before we go inside, because inside it's a peach. Well, coming round to the rear of the Bounty, I love this bit where the number plate was actually put down here at the bottom, and look where the road lights are too here. The triangles, of course, is a later addition, because these became compulsory in July 1972. But the Eccles badge is there, still on, which is nice to see, because things like that usually fell off after a few years, or ripped off by somebody who just wanted to rip the things off. And also, you've got to remember, things like Hillman Minks, Moritz Oxford would tow this caravan. So these are sort of popular cars of the day. And again, it wasn't unusual in the 70s to see Eccles Bounty still around on site, still being used, even into the early 80s. These were a well-made caravan. And again, made at the Birmingham Sturtsley Works before they were eventually moved up to Newmarket in the early 60s. But anyway, we're going to go and have a look inside. And again, look at this 3 window at the back here as well. All the windows open apart from, sorry, I'll say that again. This window open, these 2 don't open, like they did at the front. But anyway, we'll go inside and have a look. Right, inside the Bounty. Well, your toilet compartment, I can't really show you very well because there's a carpet here that's just stopping it from opening. But anyway, you might be able to see there, we can just get the camera in. But your loo was very, very basic, because literally your toilet or your Elsan, and they were like a big bucket basically, would go in there and you would shut the door and it would be out of the way. Now when you came to use this toilet compartment, usually there's a door on the inside of this door, and you'd have to make sure you did this, you'd lock the outside door, fold this out, and all of a sudden you've got an extended toilet compartment ready to use. And of course after you're done, away and shut again, and your toilet in there, and that was that. Anyway, this layout was a very popular layout, and by the 60s and 70s it was usually used with the door down the bottom end. So you can imagine this layout was reversed, but it was a popular layout for 4-5 people. Now here in the Bounty we've got quite a big large kitchen area here, to be quite honest. And look at this, I mean, again today it looks all a bit sort of medieval, but then it wasn't. You know, it was modern, it was quite well made. Well, it was very well made. And in this one, it's got a 50s Dudley full oven, which again would have been an optional extra, and that has remained with the caravan. I think the caravan was picked up somewhere in Essex, I think. I can't remember what Katrina said. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But here, of course, I can remember this clips up underneath here. There's a hook there that's just missing, unfortunately, but you get the general idea. What you would do is you would put your plates above here while you were doing your meal, and it would warm the plates up. That was the general idea. Of course, sinks were plastic. Again, there was no pump water, so again that's been added at some stage over the years. There's no electric lighting, of course. If there was any electric lighting, it was usually because people had fitted their own. And again, it was very primitive, it wasn't the best, it was quite dim, so people actually did rely on their gas lights. Your storage for your crockery, etc. Again, these 2 lockers, not the biggest, but hey, back then again, as I say, people didn't take as much. Also, at the front end here is seating which would make into a double bed. So you'd sleep 2 here and 2 at the back end. As I say, the dinette would be made up into a large double, or well, double bed. using a table which would drop down. This would all fold out, your cushions would drop into place, and hence you'd have a double bed. Now in more modern times, so sort of later 60s, 70s, this area, yes, still came into a double bed, but there'd also be a bunk above. And the Sprite Alpine used this layout a lot, and it was a very big selling touring caravan, not just in the UK but in Europe as well. So consequently, look at these are the original cushions under here, sprung as well, proper big springs in there. They've done well to survive, to be quite honest, because I say things like this in caravans that were left in fields or whatever usually were taken out or vandalised. Now you may say, well, what do they do for heating in the winter time? Well, obviously caravanning, people didn't go caravanning in the winter time as much then at all. In fact, very few people did at all, because the caravans weren't insulated to good standards. But if you were starting off at Easter, and we all know Easter could be a very chilly time, there's a gas fire point here on the floor on this seat base. And I mean, today it would be highly dangerous. It'd never get through any safety regulations at all. And you would connect the pipe to from the gas fire to the tap here, and hey presto, light. Now of course you would have to have all your windows or your roof vent open to let the ventilation through, otherwise it could be curtains, quite literally. Now again, look at the width here, look how spacious it is, but look at this wardrobe. Even though it's not very deep, again it goes straight down to the floor, plenty of hanging space, and again for 4 to 5 people back then that would be ideal. So the Eccles Bounty was a good seller, as far as suggested. I'm going to quickly show you around to the lounge area. In the net area, of course, as I said before, this table would go down and make a double bed here. But you know, these windows, they're quite big for the time. They weren't very deep, but you'd be more than happy that you could see what was going on around on site. And you'd sit here, and in a pleasant day like it is today, in a lovely morning, you could be having your breakfast. And don't forget, back in that day as well, you could still pull in the side of a small little lay-by off the beaten track, and that's what I did with my parents. We did that for the first 6 months having a caravan. We hardly used the site at all. We'd go off on a small little back road and find a nice pull-in out of the way and very quiet, and that's where we'd spend the weekend. But anyway, back to the Eccles. The Bounty, as I say, was a very successful model for them, and I just love the way that it just feels very much of the era. It's very 50s. It's just really, really good, and especially if you were a caravaner in the 50s and you could sit in this now, it would really take you way, way back. So what else can I say? Well, all I can say is we're going to go and see another couple of vans, and that will be a pilot caravan, which were built as a coach-built trailer caravan, a bit American design. We're going to see that next, and that is a work in progress. But on the video after this, it will be a new episode, and we're going to be looking at some American travel trailers that Katrina's got, and also 2 Belgian Constructum touring caravans. I think one from 1970, and I can't remember the other one just off the top of my head, but I will do when I get in there. That she's bought and she's done, and they look really, really good. Very, very much caravan bit, sort of iconic design, really. But anyway, you'll see those. But anyway, let's go and have a look at this pilot, which is very much, as I say, again, a work in progress. It was bought very much needing some TLC, and it's going to need some major work.